The characters that are covered is Setsuka and Raphael. Like I said, I don't think we're covering anything crucial. But what we are going to be covering today is how I feel about the current balance and let's say fairness of each specific Soulcalibur character, because I want to grade these characters on a scale of fair to busted. Okay, this isn't a traditional tier list where I'm going to tell you who's top tier, who's bottom tier, which is exactly what I'm doing, but just in a different way, right? So I think everyone in Soulcalibur 6 is relatively good. I don't think anyone in this game sucks. Okay, when I was getting Keelik to S, I may have said, God, this character sucks a lot. But compared to every other iteration of Keelik, this is like the best Keelik we've ever had. This is like the best iteration of a lot of these characters. Okay, there's a character who I'm going to put in top 3 who I think this is her best iteration, and she was banned in a previous game. So I don't know if that kind of throws any extra wrenches in this. Nah, dude, Asta's trash. Oh shit, you're not going to be happy about where I put Asta. Also, that seems like it's not fitting right. There we go. Change my mind, get better at the game, and you'll understand that Asta's absolutely fucking ridiculous. I shouldn't have to change your mind. Asta being ridiculous is just a fact. It's fine if you don't. It's fine if you don't agree. You know, it's fine to just be. There we go. Fine to be wrong. So I think, I don't know if we can do it fully ordered, right? But we'll start by trying to be ordered. And for that, I have to go ahead and put the characters that I think are the best 3 characters in the game. We'll start with Cervantes. Cervantes has literally every tool you can have as a character. He's not really missing anything other than like a big knockdown look, which is like irrelevant. You don't really need one, right? He has 1A, but it's like pretty seeable, kind of fake, right? Now, if I were to judge the game from like a playable standpoint, where right now we're on an online world, like, yeah, so he also has 1A. This motherfucker has everything. He has some of the best mids in the game. He has the highest combo damage, the highest practical combo damage off of his 3B, off of a standard launch. He has the highest practical combo damage. He has amazing lethal hits, good conditions for almost all of them. The gunshot mechanic is one of the easiest mechanics to get extra damage off of, and his CE is almost Raphael levels of full screen. This character is insane. Right, he's got really cheap lows, really good mids, amazing frames on all of his highs, and even on a lot of his mids. A6 is a war crime. A6B in Soul Charge is even more of a war crime. Free mix-ups. IGDR is one of the best whip punches in the game. He has the inconsistency of his 3B not always launching, but to make up for that, he has some of the scariest wall damage in the game with things like his command throw at the wall versus any mid at the wall, right? And there, you can use almost any of his mids. He even specifically has Hori mids that start combos. So it's not like you're gonna get away from the wall by walking, because if you try to walk, you get thrown. If you try to walk, you get while rising 8, haha, smiley face, right? And he can do it from crouch pretty fast with an RCC. This is probably one of the best characters in the game. This is 100% one of the best characters in the game. I just don't know where exactly to place him in the top 3. I think top 3, maybe top 5 is all in a tier of their own. Let me go ahead and put the next one. I think this character is absolutely insane. I think Hilda is like harder to play than Cervantes, right? Because of the boxer style mechanic, the hold a button style mechanic, the regalia arts and stuff, and the charge buttons. But she has everything you need in a character. I see a lot of people who played characters like Mina, Yoshi, and what's funny is Yoshi will be here soon. I see a lot of people playing that played characters like Yoshi, Mina, Keelik, you know, back when Mina, after the Mina nerfs and when Yoshi was a little bit worse. I've always thought he was still pretty good, but people have rated him lower than they do currently. And in those days when Hilda came out, people switched to Hilda. Now there's not like a whole lot of Hilda representation, so it's really hard to like show just how strong this character is, but she can play the game almost exclusively with kicks, and that is not an accident. They did that so that she may hold either A or B whenever she needs to, right? The counterplay to her exclusively, the counterplay to knowing what she's charging kind of goes out the window with how strong her kicks are. In previous games, when she wasn't using one thing, right? So say she wasn't using A, you knew she was charging B because she was using A and K. Now she can use K and charge whichever she wants, and you have no clue what's being charged. It makes a lot of the counterplays to the situation a lot harder. Charge 1, 5A. Right, charge 5A. It's the regular 5A charge is -8 on block, tech crouch, Hori mid, so good, extremely good. knockdown button on counter hit, plus extremely plus on hit. This character gets to play outside of a lot of characters' optimal ranges, and then when she's in close, she has the same old school Ivy feel where Ivy in season 1, beginning of the game, maybe even before the nerfs, could scrap with you up close and fight you at a distance. She can do that really well. She's the long range character that you know you don't bring home to mama. That's her. Now, there's probably 2 other characters here, and one of them is going to be Nightmare. Nightmare. This character is so polarizing. He has a lot of problems, and he can lose a lot of matchups simply because of the fact that he's gonna get armor broken. So like it makes armor a lot harder to use, but most practical ring out carry, extremely high damage, ridiculous plus frames, extremely easy lethal hit conditions. So very simple and strong, effective game plan, right? Like whenever you are fighting against Nightmare, for the most part, unless you beat this character, unless your character is better than him, you have to play around his game plan, not the other way around. This is like probably the strongest control style character in Soulcalibur 6 currently, right? There was a large chunk of time when Cassandra was probably the best control style character, and people were like, well, you have to play around all of his stuff. It's always his turn, even when it's not. Nightmare is that character. And with an even higher practical damage output than Cassandra, this character is absolutely insane. Now, I don't think that any characters really need crazy nerfs, but if like there were going to be characters that are going to get changes, it's these. All right. There's 2 other characters I want to put in busted tier, but I don't think they like inherently need changes. I think that they're okay. They're like close enough to the others in skill. I mean, in a power level that it's kind of okay, right? I'm a bigger fan of like buff the weak. Nightmare's feast or famine, in my opinion. Exactly. He's the most polarizing of the top tiers, I want to say. Like there are going to be characters that like completely shit on Nightmare, and there's going to be characters that Nightmare actually just completely bodies. And it's not even fully the character, it's more the play style of whoever's using him, because Nightmare is so well rounded that you can do almost anything with this character except, you know, punish -12s. That was a little tongue in cheek. I apologize. Another character I want to put in busted tier is Yoshimitsu. This character, when I said Raphael, when I said that that Cervantes has actually everything, so does Yoshimitsu. Now the difference between Yoshimitsu and Cervantes is going to have a lot more control and play from ranges outside of like range 2, right? Yoshimitsu is not playing very hard outside of range 2, but in 2 through 0, this is probably the strongest character in the game. He has an answer for every situation, some of the best punishes, right? He has a nice I-16, a nice I-18, a very strong I-20. His I-14 and his I-12 are also phenomenal, right? Even from crouch. All of these things, his crouching punishes and his setting punishes are some of the best in the game. They may not be the best damage, but they're usually really good frames. And for a character like this, a frame monster, a character with the 10 frame AA, the only character that I'm putting in busted, I think, with a 10 frame AA. Oh, you know what? That's a lie. I think that this character does so much. He's one of the characters that I started to pick up when I said, you know, I want to learn other characters, because, and it's not even because Zos is weak, but he has a lot of like losing matchups compared to other characters. And Yoshi was the character that I looked at and I was like, this character has like the least polarizing amount of that matchup. Right? I think that there's a really bad character. There's like one really bad character that has like a favorable matchup against him, but against the rest of the roster, this character doesn't seem to have very many losing matchups. I think most of the characters here except Nightmare, all the characters I'm putting up here except Nightmare, are going to win almost every matchup. And the last character I'm putting, for anyone who doesn't know, the I-12 CE, the I-10 AA Queen, the mix-up monster, the absolute disgusting character that is Nanshate, Watch Over Me Mother, Xianghua. I put Xianghua so low in my old list, and that was a mistake. That was a mistake. This character is a fucking gremlin. Okay, and this character is a gremlin who has her game plan online all the time. Now, a lot of people would probably put Amy in this spot, and Amy's going to be pretty close coming up next. But a lot of people would have put Amy in this spot, and the reason being is that Amy, when she has her game plan fully enacted, she's definitely among the busted tier characters, right? But Xianghua has this game plan all the time. She has a lot more range, very applicable lethal hits, extremely scary 50-50s, and nice Ogi off of her CP. Some of the best, if not the best, Oki off of her CE, right? And that's because her soul attack and her soul charge are still absolutely usable, her C is just so much better, right? And makes your opponent have to play in a style like, I think that most of the other characters in the game, minus like her and Zos, right? Her and Zos are the only two characters that really do this now. It used to be a lot more applicable when Ivy's CE beat everything. But there were characters where when they had a bar of meter, you were forced to play around it, and there was nothing you could do about it. Your option was to play around it or die. And I don't think that anyone really encapsulates that anymore. It's only, like, Zos kind of has it, right? Because of how strong his horizontals are and his vertical. Like, he just has a lot of strong buttons, but how strong his horizontals are and then his CE, right? And if you just stand there and block it, it's plus 12. But this character just has 0 unsafety on almost anything, right? Like, the most you're gonna get on a Xianghua player, if you're not ducking under something with if you're not ducking under something or stepping something, the most you're gonna get on this character is like an I-14, I-12 punish, which isn't always the best, especially against a character that has an I-10 AA, right? She's gonna be able to counter poke you out of a lot of your stuff, even on hit, because you're gonna have to keep your pressure extremely tight, because she has AGIs for everything. She has AGIs for mids, she has AGIs for she has AGIs for mids, she has AGIs for lows, horizontals and vertical, right? She has literally AGIs for everything. It's absolutely insane. Having to play around CE the entirety of fighting against her is a chore as long as she has a bar of meter, and it doesn't feel good if you get hit by it, right? It's not one of those CEs where it's like, yeah, I'll take the damage, because it doesn't reset to a situation where you're both back in neutral. She gets over. This character is crazy. I think that kind of rounds off Busted, right? Like, the only other character I could think to put in Busted is Amy, right? So if I were to put anyone else here, it's probably Amy. I could see Amy being Busted. Like, Amy's game plan is still already solid enough without having to get roses, but I don't think that it's so much better. I almost want to do this, I'm being quite honest, because a lot of his crazier shit comes from meters. She doesn't need meters, just to lethal it, and she does massive damage. So many safe launchers. Anyways, safe launchers, pesky game plan, great lows, phenomenal like step control when it comes to having red roses. Once you have red roses, her step control becomes absolutely amazing. A lot of the punishes on her don't feel that great if the thing that she hit you with was something that gave her roses, right? So this character starts off, as JJJ would say, in a losing situation, right? So if you lose the first round but you gained roses, you are now officially even. Like, if you got your 4 roses in round 1 but you lost, you're now playing one of the best characters in the game. Hey, what's up, Morphix? How you doing? You'll see where I put Tira in a little bit, actually. It's not gonna take, my tier list isn't gonna take too long. I think a lot of these characters I summarized just fine with my last tier list, so I don't want to go super duper in depth. I just went really in depth with Xianghua because of how low I put her before and how much higher she is now. And I don't think that inherently she is worse. She's like better than she was then. I just think that I underrated her kit compared to the rest of the game. Next up, I think that's the end of the busted character. I think the characters that I want to put in cheap that are not busted. We're gonna start with Taki. We're gonna start with this evasive monster with insane plus frames, possession cancels, and safe launchers. We're gonna start with her. We're putting her over here, right? I don't think that she's as strong as a character with safe launchers such as Amy or Taki. Amy or Xianghua. But Taki's game plan has very few holes except for the fact that she has to play very close up, right? Her best get-in tools are going to be things like 6-6B and 6-6A+B. Now, and also a lot of her big buttons off of Stalker. Now, when I mentioned 6-6A+B, don't forget that there's also 6-6A+B hold, which is a fucking war cry. I think that that's one of the strongest moves in the game that is not inside of a soul charge. 6-6A+B hold actually made this character so much stronger. I would have rated this character way lower. I think I even did before 6-6A+B became one of the Taki moves that you see very frequently. She has really nice step control, very, very good AA, BAK, ABK, AAB, right? A lot of her options are going to be really safe and lead to like inherent mix. And then when they don't, you're going to be staggered with offense. And she has really fast buttons, very nice counter hit tools, not as strong as Setsuka's, But this is another one of those counter hit style characters where when you guess right and you counter hit someone, you're gonna absolutely shit on people. Like this character has insane counter hit damage. It's not small by any chance. There's a lot of her normal standard openings that you're gonna get that aren't off of like A6 lethal hit that are small, right? But if you ever do land an A6 lethal hit, which by the way is extremely easy, you only have to barely microstep, right? You can even do it after a level 3 GI. After level 3 GI, if they don't immediately re-GI, you can hit them with that, which is crazy. It's insane. So it's essentially almost always a free 50-50. If I did a Soulcalibur tier list, it would be based on my ability to play the character. Nice. That's a good idea. Because I think that a lot of people rate characters poorly without watching them constantly or without understanding how they function. And that's something that I have to admit that I did myself as well, right? Like, so I had Changwa way lower before, and I think I even had Taki way lower before. And it's because I didn't see a lot of them. But because I didn't see a lot of them, I didn't know just how busted they were. It was a little easier with Hilda, because just looking at her kit, she's actually fucking crazy. That character's nuts. But it's a little different when it comes to Taki and Changwa. So that's why I went a little more in depth on them. The next character I want to put in cheap tier is Raphael. I don't know if you guys can tell, but a lot of these fast characters just do too much. And that's not like a knock on them. I want these fast characters to be good. I have no problem with that. I think the fast characters should be good. I think that Raphael's risk reward is really skewed out of his favor, in his favor though. I think that's what makes him so strong, is that a lot of his, even though he has a bunch of verticals and that's mainly what you're worried about, I think that his risk reward is heavily skewed in his favor. A lot of characters, it's not so that way. Whenever they have like a really fast, reliable button that they're going to use all the time, like a button like 66B hold or 6BB, or what's another good move that he uses a lot? 1K, moves like that. They're like heavily weighted in his favor because -2 means you're 0 against most of the cast. +2 means you're +4 against most of the cast, right? And if you're ever more plus than that, there's a lot of situations where against Raphael, you just can't step. So you do actually have to hold his crazier offense and pressure. And it makes his character crazy, like absolutely insane. Not to mention, you know, the almost full screen whip punisher that is Raphael CE, the break attack version. The Taki mains can suck a dick. They can suck it. This character's crazy. If they think their character sucks, they should play another character instead of complaining. The devs have stopped patching the game, play someone else, shut the fuck up. That's my thought process. Now, there's two characters I kind of want to put in the same spot. And they almost function the same way, but not really. Bong and Tira. I think these characters belong. Now, the reason why Tira belongs here is because Keelik, I read Keelik Morphix. Why'd you give me? Tira has an extremely solid game plan without a gimmick. And then with a gimmick, it becomes one of the strongest game plans in the game. Gloomy Coda is a ridiculous install. She has the fastest backdash, or the best backdash in the game, and really far range whip punishment. This character, if there was like a risk reward tier list, this character is low risk, medium reward, or low risk, high reward, right? I think that Tira, for her safety that you get, I think that it makes her worth the pick already. And then just having the addition of getting extra damage and having two different characters depending on which matchup you need to play makes this character kind of ridiculous, kind of crazy. And then Kwong is like the exact opposite when it comes to his stance, right? You lose life, right? You don't have to build up talismans. You want to use your talisman. But when you do, you put yourself into situations where your opponent has to guess your mix in situations that are extremely fucked up. Right now, throw becomes an actual guess mix-up. Now you have to guess between front or back because back is gonna fucking kill you and front's gonna leave you in a fucked up Oki situation. That's just one of the many things about this character, right? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he also has an unblockable throw, an unbreakable throw. Are there matchups where Tyr prefers Jolly? Yes, absolutely. I think that Jolly does a lot better against characters like Voldo, 2B, Aswell, and Keelik. Those are just four characters that I think there could be more. There's probably more, but just from what I've seen with the character, right? I've seen people, you know, go back into Gloomy or Jolly, go back into Jolly specifically, and try to stick with it against those characters. I'm not entirely sure what it is. Maybe it's specifically that you have a lot more like space control and whiff punishment against those characters that are playing at a longer range than you normally, right? I don't think Tyr is 6-6B is like actually that bad. Is it 6-6B? Yeah, 6-6B. I think that it's significantly better as a Whip Punisher and Gloomy than it is in Jolly. Now, what I was saying about Huang was, I think that Huang is, he's like a really nice mid-range character. Probably the strongest mid-range character in the game that's not in like, the strongest like not cheap, not busted as fuck mid-range character. Because I think that Cervantes can be played in the mid-range extremely well. And so can a character like Nightmare, right? Those are both really good mid-range characters. But I think the way that Huang plays his game plan is actually more focused in on that. Oh, my cats are going crazy. It's a lot more focused in on that. And then just having the addition of talismans for either longer range pokes, crazier mix-ups, or straight up lethal hit 50-50 guesses is really, really good. I also think that his post GI is really strong. Like, it's among the busted characters of post level of a post GI 50-50. Right? I think that his what is it? It's B slide K or K6. I believe it's B slide K. I don't know the name of the move. But that move and then his A plus B are both really, really strong when it comes to level 2 GI or higher, right? And level 2s and level 3s are really common, especially in strings. There's a lot of level 3 GIs or level 2 GIs in strings. You can't just duck on level 2. Level 1 you can just duck, but level 2 you can't just duck. You have too many plus frames. Unfortunately for you, you're 2+. If you're gonna get hit with the actual non-break attack lethal hit, you cannot duck. You don't have enough time. But yeah, it's harder to summarize Swing. There's not like too many players that make this character look good. Florida Man's the one that comes to mind the most. I think he like shows a lot of the true potential of this character. Having like actual unreactable mix because of how big and windy a lot of his buttons are, like recognizing the animations even in an offline setting is really hard. There's a lot of moves that you're gonna get hit by Huang and you're like, okay, well I thought that was this big windy low, but it turned out to be a big windy mid and I just took fucking 70 damage or 60 damage and he lost 2 talismans or whatever and he's closer to getting the lethal hits on it. I don't see, the problem is I know who I want to put next. It's between like there's like 3 characters, so this is where it gets a little more tricky. If I started from the bottom here, it would have been easier. Yeah, we're gonna do it. So I'm putting Cassandra. Cassandra is the frame train, is a mix-up monster, is a totally broken, busted piece of shit. Just gorilla, okay? If people talk about Talon being a gorilla, Talon is lower than Cassandra. I don't care. This character's fucking stupid. I don't want to fight this character. I learned this character so that I can know how to play against her. She has too many situations where she has -2, -4, +2, +4 that lead into more Oki and mix-up. It's unfortunately, that's not good enough of a game plan to put her above the other characters because she does actually have like unsafe things, right? There are going to be a lot of things that she's going to use to get out of disadvantage or to try to push advantage that will leave her in situations where she's punishable, like Angel Step AB, right? That's something that's relatively punishable on block. Her 1K is -14 on block, right? It's a pretty strong low. It jumps over highs, but it's not one of the one of the horizontal ones like a 1K from Raphael that also jumps. It's not a 1K from Yoshimitsu that's 0 on hit, right? It's inherently negative. She has like she has decent, if not strong, of the best, like of everything, but not the best. And then Divine Force is a really strong mechanic, and you get CE levels of damage off of basic hit confirms and combos using it, and you can even reset into more damage. I mean, into a situation to try to get yourself back into Divine Force, kind of Nightmare-like. She has a lot of command throws, which means she gets additional free plus frames. It does push them back pretty far, but being -6 against a character like this with like a move like 6B and 6A, you're gonna have to watch when and where you backstep and sidestep. She has low throws front and back. She has, yes, that is one of her problems. That's the same reason why Raphael is not that great compared to Andy. I think that his linearness gets him killed a lot of times. She has some of the best command throws in the game. I think technically she's the best grappler in the game because I haven't put Ivy or Astros yet. So unfortunately, it's probably the best grappler in the game. And she's also one of the best brawlers in the game because She's the firm trade. I don't think I have to explain how she does so much in neutral. It's just about, knowing where to step, knowing where to duck against this character, and you can kind of dismantle her a little easier than you can against the top two. The next character I'm going to put, you guys are probably surprised to see him this low. You guys are probably extremely surprised to see my boy, the Solomon, this low. I still value a lot of Zos's stuff, but with the way that the game is progressing, a lot of people are starting to understand and learn the counterplay. Now, I'm a big fan of anecdotal tiers because you cannot judge tiers fully by the things that you know without people being able to play around them, right? So I knew that Zos's strings are steppable with 3. If you just hold 3, you take the regular 3AB and you don't die, right? Or you take 3AK and they're plus 10, but you don't get pulled out of the ring. I know that. And then if they do 3AB hold, you cleanly step out of it without getting retracked, and then you launch them. But so a lot of his stuff, GI gabs, right? So you're playing on the back foot. I think that Zos is probably the strongest high risk, high reward character in the game. He is the first high risk, high reward character I've put into a tier. The other high risk, high reward characters are actually significantly weird. I think just the fact that he becomes one of the strongest myth monsters in the game in Soul Charge, right? He has 1AB, right? 1AB, which is a +2 on hit. He has 3AKB, which is a knockdown on hit, and you can just not finish the string. You can catch a lot of people by not finishing your strings, which is sad because you are minus, but you get the mental frames. And as a character with a GICE, mental frames are pretty good. Right? People assumed that with the nerfs to his CE, him having to lose to highs more often would be a bad thing, but they forget about the fact that he also has 4-6B, full crouch 3K, and moves like 6B plus KA. Right? He has a lot of really strong tech ouch buttons that stop you from just inherently mashing highs on him when he doesn't have curses and goes for a CE. He's putting you into situations where it's a mix-up for both of you, and as Zos, you just have to guess right. Because his damage on a lot of those situations isn't going to be crazy high. His damage when he's in advantage and has curses on you is fucking insane. But the damage when he's on the back foot and he's trying to get out of a situation or put himself into a more favorable ring position, not always the best. But I do think that he's still cheap. I don't think that Zos is like bottom tier or bad. I just think that I value him a lot. I value his tools a lot lower than I used to. He's still my man. I'm still gonna play him. I still have the most hours in the game on this character, and that's never going to change because I fucking love Zos. He's sick. I like his high risk, high reward gameplay. If there's one thing I wish he had a Hori mid kick that was faster. I don't think he has a Hori mid kick at all. I think that's like the one thing in his kit he doesn't have, and they specifically did that so that you cannot play around characters. This is anecdotal. This is a guess, but I assume that they did it so you cannot play around characters that have Hori mid AGIs because moves like 3A and 4-4A are fucked up. They're fucked up. So I'm assuming that they don't want you to just be able to play around those moves by mashing a Hori mid kick at someone. I think that'd probably be a little too cheap. Just a little too cheap, unfortunately. The next character I'm putting in cheap is Astros. This character hits you 3 times and you're dead. This character has really strong frames. I don't care what anyone says. Astros down players come at me. This character's frames are fucking ridiculous. His tech crouch buttons and knockdowns are fucking ridiculous. The amount of 50-50s this motherfucker can put you into are fucking ridiculous. I wish Zos had a better backstep. I don't mind his backstep being kind of bad. I don't think that he should be running as much as people like to think he's a mid-range character. I absolutely think that Zos is a close range brawler that happens to have some good mid-range buttons. But I don't think that that's the main portion of his game plan by any stretch. What was I gonna say? I think that Astros armor even invalidates a lot of matchups. There are a lot of matchups where Astros armor is just extremely powerful. Armor throws and armor buttons are a phenomenal way to get in. You don't get to create inherent mixes off of your Soul Charge, but you do get a lot of plus frames off your Soul Charge buttons. Or you get to put yourself into situations where it's a guess for both of you. And here's the thing, if Astros guesses right on that, you're taking like 90 damage. If Astros guesses wrong, then you get on a 50-60 damage. It's heavily skewed into his favor, especially with the amount of things that he can do to either beat your options clean or make your options feel worse, feel weaker, you know, with things like art. His backstep is really strong. His post GI game is fucking phenomenal. Level 3 GI, you have to hold the A+B. You cannot step it, as most of the characters in the game. There might be a few, like Raphael Shadow Evade might be able to get around it. Yoshi A+K might be able to get around it. Or is it back? Is it 4B+? Maybe it's 4B+K. 4B+K might be a good. Super Freak also might be able to get around it. But a lot of characters are just gonna have to hold that offense. They're gonna have to hold that. It's a straight guess, right? It's either you soul charge or you block. You do not have time to step. So that makes his post GI pretty strong, along with the fact that he puts himself into like situations where he's making you guys a lot. Astros guess is right. He can beat Inferno very easily. He can even beat Inferno very. Okay, well Inferno is not going to be on the tier list. He doesn't exist. For the purposes of competitive play, I don't think he exists. The last character I want to put into cheap tier, it's actually Tall. There's the other gremlin. You guys are probably wondering where the other gremlin was, huh? Yeah, all these gremlins are up in the top half of the game. Talon has a lot of counterplay, so she's at the bottom of like cheap tier. She has a lot of good stuff. She has some of the best mix-ups in the game, right? She has a lot of good staggered offense, very nice stances, and I think that like counterplaying her makes it. Well, pardon me. Counterplaying her doesn't always feel good, right? Because a lot of the time she's in the air. You have to specifically use moves that are going to catch her out of the air or catch her using like the windy swing big lows, right? And because of that, a lot of your damage is going to be, you know, lost. And when that happens, once again, this mix-up is weighted heavily into her favor. I think a lot of the mix-up characters in this game, and minus Maxi, the punishment is way less than the reward that they get. If I were to classify Talam as something when it comes to risk reward, I think that she is probably medium risk, high reward. You can actually play an extremely strong, like neutral heavy focus with this character. If you watch players like Sly Tiger and Lost Providence, Honest, watch players like them, I think all of the Talam players actually play her a lot more neutral focus. Because you can even look at a player like DGG, Grandma's Got Game. He does the exact same thing. He makes his character look like a close range neutral monster. Because she has phenomenal frames, and the mix-ups are just like icing on the top, but not enough icing to make her better than a lot of these. I think a lot of the characters that are in the busted tier just shit on shit on Talon. I think Talon loses to Cervantes pretty easily, Hilda pretty easily. Might have a decent time against a character like Nightmare, right? Because she has a lot of moves that just straight up break armor. She has a lot of really big hits that break armor. She also has a lot of multi-hits built in. So that's one of the more polarizing ones. That is why I consider Nightmare the most polarizing of the top tiers. Xianghua does not do. Xianghua does great, right, against Talam. She has moves that are going to catch her out of the area and lead to a full combo. And then she also just has CE as the I-12 catch-all to a lot of situations. Yoshi, it might be 50-50. It might actually be even. That might be like one of the more even matchups she has. And Amy, same thing. I think Amy also beats Talam. Talam loses to, I think most of the characters in the game have pretty bad matchups against the top tiers, to be quite honest, though. We're in good tier. I think that's going to be the end of the busted tier. I think we're in good tier now. I do need to change the music because it's not changing. There we go. I almost want to turn this one up. Just a hair. I don't know if it actually turned up. Anyways. We're now in the good tier. Good tier are the characters who have a lot of stuff, not inherently at all some of the best stuff, just strong stuff, but they have either really good counterplay or they have too many losing matchups to be considered cheap. I want to start off with two characters that I think kind of play relatively similar, and by that I mean that it's a whole lot of wackiness, and when they get away with it, they feel like the strongest characters in the game, and when they don't, they absolutely lose. I think 2B and Aswell are both high risk, high reward characters. These are the next two high risk, high reward characters I'm putting on here. There's only one other character that I consider high risk, high reward, and that's plot twist Mitsurugi. For anyone who doesn't think that Mitsurugi's high risk, high reward, that's a-okay. We might just have different opinions on characters. I knew you were gonna do this. Yeah, no, it's true. I think that when Aswell is winning, he's winning really hard, but when he's losing, a lot of his ways to get out of pressure are forced. They're extremely forced, and they make it so that he's actually losing the game more often than he's winning it. You're forced to put yourself into situations where your opponent can read the option and punish you harder than the punish you were already taking, which is really, really unfortunate. And then 2B, of course, if she can never get her game plan started, then she looks like a limping wildebeest, like a limping wildebeest. Okay? But if she does get her offense started, she is extremely powerful and very hard to stop. Almost like Cassandra, she becomes a runaway train when it comes to frames, but without a 10 frame AA. But she doesn't have an AA that is so extremely plus on hit that it leads to free mix-ups with aggression shift, which I think is good. I don't think that that's a bad thing inherently. I think that this character is a little wacky, kind of annoying to fight, and like probably didn't belong in Soulcalibur, but hey, she's already here. There's no point in taking it back now. Same thing with Aswell. I still I can't put Setsuka above 2B just because she beats 2B. I don't think that like inherently makes her better, because I think Setsuka has her own problems. We are getting close to her actually, so it's funny that you mentioned her because I was gonna put her and Songmina next. I think that these two characters are the counter hit fishers and the space control characters of the low tiers, or the good tiers, right? I think that Setsuka has a whole lot of great ways to stop Steph, really powerful counter hit tools, and safe launchers, and those are some of the things that you look for in a good character. So these, she is inherently good. She just has a lot of holes in her game plan and her offense, and her extremely strong and fast lows aren't enough to make up for it. I think that this character is going to be poking you a lot if you're playing the patient game, right? She might have what is considered some of the best command throws in the game, and really good frames off those command throws, because once again they are +8. +6 now. Apologies, they're +6 now. But it's not enough for her to be considered like the cheap tier. I don't think that she's cheap. I just think that she has a game plan that's all her own, and she feels like that kind of style works when it works, and then when it doesn't, you're kind of, you're struggling to get back. I don't think that this is that character that's going to run giant comebacks. Songmina, on the other hand, throw all of that shit out the window. She can absolutely make giant comebacks. Her soul charge is literally fucking cheating. Matter of fact, I might put Songmina above. I think Songmina is probably above them. Thinking of putting together a tier list for online obnoxiousness, that's a pretty good idea. Wouldn't Ivy and Siggy be, Ivy and Siegfried and Keelik be at the top of that? Yeah, okay, so I moved Songmina. I was trying to think of what to say about Songmina. Songmina's pressure is a little cheaper. Yeah, definitely on the border of cheap with me. That's why I had to put her at the top of good. Borderline cheap, really good Oki, phenomenal pressure. Probably has too many gaps and holes to be among the top tier characters. I think that when this character is being played improperly, and when she's losing and doesn't have soul charge, this character sucks. Not actually sucks, but it feels bad to play her when you're not in a situation where you're either winning or have soul charge to bring the game back. But when you're winning, when you're running your offense, and when you're playing in the mid-range where she's the best at, this character excels beyond all belief. I think that her having a 12 frame 2A that's +6 on hit is probably one of the strongest things about her. Her 4-4B is a war crime. And then she also has probably some of the safest, I shouldn't say safest, but some of the best AGIs in the game when it comes to coverage, right? She has an AGI for verticals, extremely whip punishable, and an AGI for 40s. And both of them lead to pretty good damage, either by the wall or of furs. At the top of the tier list, Siegfried, when I bring Terraplasm. Last time we played, you played Yoshi. I don't actually remember how. I don't know how your Siegfried is now. Nice getting the first, though. No one checked it out. Anyways, this character's soul charge is a war crime, and the rest of her tools are pretty good. They're not phenomenal or anything, but they're extremely strong. She has 2 or 3 super cheap options that you can use to stop people from being able to play in general. I think her wall rising B is one of those, her 4-4B, her 2A being +6 on normal hit, not just counter hit, haha. And full crouch 1 KK. I think that those are all really strong moves, and they make this character kind of a chore to fight, especially after she builds a meter and you put her into a situation where she's going to use her soul charge, right? Probably puts her above these other characters. The next characters I want to place. I think that there's no other character that really fits in this spot. Separate? I mean, as a pair. I think the next character I want to put is Ivy. Ivy's a lot worse than she used to be. A lot of her defensive options are pretty bad. You're not running a comeback, or even like sometimes even starting an offense without soul charge. Yes, like pick throwing people with Calamity Symphony and Summon Suffering is really, really good, but it's not like a reliable way to always get damage, because as Ivy you're looking to be in the long range. You're looking to be further away, and a lot of characters, especially the top tiers, have gotten way better tools to approach her in that long range situation. I think most of the characters above her, minus like Talon and I don't know, Setsuka, right, have really good ways to get around a lot of her zoning tools. And then when they do, they usually are in and starting an offense against the character, so it makes it a lot harder for her to start that frame train where you're running +4 and +6s into Calamity Symphonies and Summon Suffering, which is what a lot of her close range stuff is going to be after a 3K or an AA on hit, or a 4B2, 4B8 on block, right? Maybe it's 4B2. Either 4B2 or 4B8 on block. She does have really nice and applicable lethal hits, which is something that I'll give her, especially like out of defense. On defense, they might be all punishable or whip punishable, like block punishable or whip punishable, but she has really practical AGI. Lethal hits. Probably some of the best punishing lethal hit conditions in the game. I don't think that she has any actual offensive lethal hits. I think all of them are like whip punish and or like step punish situations, which isn't a bad thing. It just means that they want you to play this character defensively, and how with aggressive this game is, it's kind of hard to run that sort of a game plan. I did forget a character. Unfortunately, I forgot to put Grow. I think Grow might be in between 2B and Azul. Yeah, I absolutely forgot Grow. Grow's Soul Charge deletes people. He has some of the best step catching tools in the game. He has very nice horizontal face control. He has a lethal hit for stopping people from poking him with lows like 2A and 1K, things like that. Especially after minus frames or 0 frames, which he's going to have a lot of. I think that his 4-4K is better than Zos's when it comes to just the applicableness of the situation, because it also leaves him jumping, and it's better on hit and on block than Zos's is. But it's essentially the same style of move. I think that a lot of his better verticals are safe on block and or even leave him in situations where he can press after. There's a whole lot of evasive buttons and ways to get out of situations that other characters don't, that aren't just Soul Charge. But like I said, I'm going to repeat this one more time. His Soul Charge, as long as you're not using 3BB or 3BB or 1AK, absolutely deletes people. Guild Seeker is super phenomenal, but it's not that great because of how much Soul Gauge it uses. 1A by itself is actually kind of a war crime now, specifically because of the fact that they gave it a mid extension, right? So now you're stuck between trying to step and guess the B, or stuck between eating the A, which is plus on hit, but they're extremely plus on hit. So it's not really a mix-up you want to have to take very often, and it's not a fully GI-able mix-up on reaction. Right, you're not gonna be able to GI both options with the same speed, and that's what makes it one of the more annoying like feints in the game. We're getting pretty close to the bottom tiers here. I think the last character to round off good tier is probably Qualmaru. Maybe it's Garol. I think it's Garol. The last character to round off, which is unfortunate because now you guys know who I think are some of the worst characters in the game, is Garol. The same things I just said about Grow, but without the bullshit. Without the Soul Charge bullshit. Essentially the same thing. Very nice step control. Good plus frames on hit. Phenomenal situations on block with a lot of his verticals. Maybe not plus frames. Ard is, once again, a war crime. Instead of having the war crime of 1A slide B, he has the war crime of Ard and Igni, which is like one of the dumbest and most frustrating staggers in the game. And can't forget about the parry. I forgot what it's called. I'm not a Witcher fan. I'm not one of those guys. But so now we're down to the bottom tiers. This, we should just talk about Voldo for the rest of the list now. Unfortunately, we're not going to do that. Now I want to. This is a little rough. I think that a lot of these characters, like, I don't really have a definitive worst character. Okay, that's a lie. I have a definitive worst character in the game, but like, he's still not even that bad. I want to put as top of top of fair, right? Siegfried. Siegfried is borderline good. Siegfried could be good, but a lot of his stuff got nerfed to the point of him like just being like compared to his absolutely ridiculous counterpart Nightmare. So this character is a lot worse. I do think that he's still okay. He's fair, but he's not like the character that he once was in season 1, where he had so many things that were just an absolute fucking war crime. But he still has some pretty cheap stuff. Some of the easiest and most efficient comebacks in the game with Dark Legacy. Being able to secure a second Dark Legacy is amazing. Twirl as a defensive option, Base Hold as a defensive option, and My Hand 6A plus B as defensive options are also all really powerful. It's that his mid-range control isn't as strong as it used to be. His mid-range control is a lot worse, and people have discovered more counterplay to his stances, making the Stansted Siegfried less effective than it used to be. And with that being less effective and his mid-range control being less effective, he has overall less options to open you up and to get OP, right? You're not going to be running a train on people like you were in season 1 with this character. He's still good though. The next character I'm going to put is Falmar. Look, I'm going to be real. Watching this character, I'm just never impressed. I'm like, wow, they did cool stuff. Wow, that was a flashy combo. That was a lot of nice damage. But then they fall apart. The character just gets beat up by so many other characters on the roster. I don't think that there's a character that I can think of on this roster right now that has more matchups where he just struggled in. Right? I think there's a character worse. I think there's 2 characters I'm going to put below Palmari that beat him. Like, legitimately. And those characters are Keelik and Sophie, because of course you already know they're already below him. I think both of those characters absolutely fucking clown Palmari. Ridiculously. Honestly. He just has some of the cheaper stuff compared to the other characters in bottom tier. I think these 2 characters have like the most of like the unfair shit, the cheap shit that should be able to, in theory, push them up to good. But it's still not enough with how crazy some of the tools are with the characters. His unblockable being absolutely, unsteppable is pretty sick, but it's not something you can adequately rely on, because you don't try to step it, just soul charge. You have the meter, RI if you have the meter. Don't do it to yourself. The next character I want to put, Sophie. Sophie's game plan is overall very solid. I just think that it's so solid, but it's solid, but it's like everything else is lackluster. She's just like okay. Blue Falmar is a zoner. He has to push to keep distance until he has an opportunity to punish. Yeah, and unfortunately, when you try to play that way, you get bodied by the characters that are better than you, that are all already zoners or mid-range characters, like Zas, Astros, Plong, Cervantes, Hilda, Nightmare, Sophie, who's a mid-range character. She's not really a zoner per se, but she's a mid-range character. And even Keelik, right? I think that there's too many other mid-range characters. There's too many mid-range characters in this game for his zoning style to be effective. It's not all that crazy. I think that like he works great as an anti-zoner. I think he's actually kind of pretty decent against Ivy. I think that's like a fair matchup for him. It's a pretty decent one. But back to what I was saying about Sophie, I think that outside of Soul Charge, she's just absolutely average. Nothing super spectacular, but everything is good. Like all of her tools are A-okay. You can use most of her buttons. She has a lot of good buttons. She has a safe launcher. She has a really nice get out of jail free card with not get out of jail free, but get out of disadvantage card. That's a tech jump and a tech crouch with a 2-2 BAK. She has really phenomenal lethal hits, just like Ivy's. Most of them are punish situations, and they are very applicable for a lot of the characters and situations that you're going to be fighting against. This is a pretty decent AGI. Stab is stab. It's good, but a lot of those things just aren't high enough to push her up further. I want to put Voldo. I think Voldo is crazy. I think Voldo is actually crazy. Unfortunately, his craziness has been nerfed. They took away a lot of the actual bum shit that he can do and just gave him neutral tools. Now that they've only given him neutral tools, he's just like he's a shell of what he was in season 1 and beginning of season 2. I would have totally put this character higher if they had buffed all of his neutral tools like they did, but did not nerf any of his crazy stuff. This character would be fucking nuts. This character would definitely be like top of good or like borderline cheap tier. Unfortunately, they want him to play more neutral. I think the way Voldo plays is a lot safer and smarter now, which is cool. He's less high risk, high reward. Now he's like medium risk, medium reward. But it's not enough to compete with the other medium risk, medium reward characters, or even the medium risk, high reward characters. if I'm gonna throw this out there, I think that Cervantes and Hilda are low risk, high reward. Just for anyone who wonders where I consider them, I say the same thing about Xianghua. I think Xianghua is also low risk, high reward. But unfortunately, with his neutrals being better, but everything else being nerfed, I don't think Voldo is all that strong. Voldo is cracked in my opinion. I have never seen him in neutral. I think you're not fighting against good Voldos is what's happening. I think you're not fighting against good Voldos. The Voldos you're fighting against are just using Mantis Crawl and like shenanigans against you. They know that you don't know how to play around it. Because there's like super obvious ways to play around it now, right? He loses to generic 2Ks, 3Ks, 2As. Nice, quick vertical mids, Tori mids. He loses those things 3As. Those are like things that he cannot play through in the stances. He actually has to hold most of that. The only way that you're going to be able to do anything crazy is off of a frame trap, because you're getting these things on hit, and it's so hard to make these things whip punishes, right? To use these tools that you're referring to as whip punishes. Normally they're going to be kind of Hail Mary attempts, or you're doing them on block. Oh, sweet. This is Seth? His name is Seth? No, this isn't Seth. It's the spider dude. I forgot the spider dude's name. Byakuya. They always seem to struggle in neutral, it seems. Maybe they're just bad, like he said. Yes. I'm not taking it back. Yes, they're probably bad. I'm gonna be real, I roast Keelik a lot, but I think Keelik is better than Midori. He's solid. He has some like okay cheap stuff, but at the cost of losing life, it's not really worth it all the time, right? A lot of times you want to go into Soul Charge, get your nice combo to build your life bleed back, and then immediately get out of Soul Charge. I think that if they lower the life lost, his character would be a lot better. You'd use his Soul Charge in more situations. You wouldn't immediately get out of it or try to fish for a CE. And then he has kind of that same game plan where you can't do anything -12 against him. If you do, you get CE'd. But it's like so inapplicable and rarely worth it, because when you're in Soul Charge, you're already losing. You're already in a situation where now the game is no longer in your favor, unless you had a life lead before you did it and you were doing enough damage to keep that life lead. His Soul Charge is a fat gimmick, big fat gimmick. More of a gimmick than grows because of the fact that he's life. But a lot of his neutrals are really strong. I think he has some of the best lows in the game. That aren't Cervantes' lows or Hilda's lows or Setsuka's, right? I think he has like a top 5 character in the game when it comes to lows. And the lows give him pretty good enough advantage where he can frame trap you for trying to backstep, sidestep, or even pressing buttons in a lot of situations. I think that Wall Rising B is a ridiculous move. My favorite safe launcher in the game, as a matter of fact. So I'm a little biased towards Keelik, so I will put him above Mitsuki. Yeah, I know. That's what I was gonna say there. High risk, high reward. Fun game plan. Very fun game plan. Extremely fun game plan. But I think there's too many holes in this motherfucker's game plan after season 1, even with the addition of Shira Blade, for it to matter. I think that his tools are... the tools that he has, the ones that he want to use, better characters already have. Right? But like a Hellsweep. Nina's got that. Yoshi's got it. Fast, safe, strong lows. Setsuka's got that. Keelik's got that. Cervantes has got that. This character puts himself into too many situations where he has to guess, and when he guesses, he does not have the best answer. But the answer that he does have usually is going to be very, very high damage. Like I said, high risk, high reward. And unfortunately, I think the worst character in the game is Maxi. I think that once this character is actually understood, once you know the matchup, this character is significantly worse. He might not be fun to play against when you're a fucking scrub. Alright, this is the scrub killer. This is the one that's gonna wata all over you, and he's gonna beat your fucking ass, make you look like a noob and a scrub, and you're whack, right? I'm trying to download. There we go. He's gonna make you look like a scrub and like you're whack, and like you don't know how to play the game. And his Soul Charge is very polarizing. A lot of characters just absolutely shit on it, and a lot of characters beat it clean, and it looks like it's one of the worst Soul Charges in the game. But once you actually learn how to fight against him, he becomes absolutely ass. He's very bad. He's not a very good character. A lot of characters that have stances I hate him as a character even from Soulcalibur. You know, I agree. I don't like stance characters like that. I don't like characters with such polarizing options where they're really, really good or they're really, really bad. I think that Maxi's biggest problem is he's like the opposite of Voldo. Voldo, they took away all of his mix and gave him all neutral, and he has like very limited ways to actually start his mix. And Maxi has the exact opposite problem. He has a whole lot of ways to mix, but he doesn't have a whole lot of ways to open you up a neutral to start the fucking mix. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying here? All right? That's his biggest problem. And I don't like the way that that functions because it makes it harder to balance him. Like, you could just make his neutral better and not change his mix. But if you do that, then I think he just gets too good, right? Like, how do you balance a character? Because of the fact that he has AGIs mixed into his strings. And when you're not using the AGIs, a lot of the situations or guesses in 50-50s that even have break attacks. Ravini, they have RE, WoWE. Yeah, I just said they also have break attacks. He also has mix-ups in his strings that are break attacks. WoWE, you know, they gave him answers to beat reverse ledge that he didn't have in older games. He didn't have as many plus frame buttons and as many like buttons where he could step after. There are straight up buttons that he has that are already safe to a lot of the cast. Like the high kick, the stance high kick. That's already safe to most of the cast. The break attack super, the break attack vertical that comes out of left something, whatever. What do you do about it? Not RE, not GI it. You know, they did as much as they could to like make it so that he doesn't just automatically lose in situations where people RE. You know, unlike with 2B, who for the most part does lose to RE, right? She doesn't really have any straight clean answer. She has to guess. But it's not enough when you look at how weak his neutral is. His neutral's so weak. Neutral's so weak. Yeah, and there's a lot of gaps. And a lot of characters don't even have to choose between step or duck. They just have a fast enough option to beat you looping or to beat you going for like the fast high or vertical. The fast high or mid, like a character like Sophie would stab, Cassandra would stab, Zos 6K, Zos 4K. Right, and these are, I'm sorry, not 4K, 3K. And these are things that will not trigger. And unfortunately, things that are not going to trigger your fucking AGI because they're kicks. Except for stab, you know. They're not going to trigger. And then if you're using buttons against Nightmare, you can use armor. If you're not using a break attack button, he just invalidates your pressure with armor. That's sick. Same thing with Setsuka because her AGIs are so fast that if you're not using break attack, he just invalidates your pressure with armor. Same thing with Astros, right? You can't loop as the character, and that was like what they wanted to build him around, was getting 7-star Severance and looping, and it's just not enough. There's not enough ways to do it, and it's hard to balance him and make it so he's not absolutely fucking busted, and he's already annoying to fight as it is. It's like, he's the bottom of the game. I understand, and I hate it, but I also get over it, because if he wasn't bottom of the game, he'd probably be a monster. The character's hard to balance. But anyways, you guys are watching this on YouTube, you should instead have come watch it live on Twitch and chat it with me, like the chat's doing up there, right? But this is, of course, going on YouTube. Same night it got uploaded. I also posted a tier list, no context, Yield Tigers Drive tier list on Twitter. Check that shit out. Go be tilted. Get tilted by this tier list too. Leave a like and comment. Tell me, leave a dislike because I can't see this shit. I don't give a fuck what you think. Leave a like, a dislike, a comment. Tell me that my tier list sucks and that I'm whack. And then come beat me in a first money match if you're not one of the pro players. If you are, stay away from me. I'll bow down and tell you that your tier list is probably better. Anyways, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for hanging out and watching. Peace.